Welcome to The Growth Shift, the podcast where we unlock the psychological and strategic blueprints of predictable growth. If you've built a successful business, you know the truth. Your expertise is high value, but your time is finite. The question is, how do you sustain that success without sacrificing your most valuable asset? We believe that the next level of success requires a strategic pivot, a fundamental shift that moves beyond the old ways. In every episode, we dive into the critical turning points of industry leaders and uncover how they're leveraging AI not as a shortcut, but as the strategic force for their next growth shift. Today, we dive in with a leader who is defining the future of their industry. This episode is brought to you by Valentix, your strategic growth partner. At Valentix, we believe that trust and authentic relationships are the only true currency in high-value business. We challenge the status quo by building an AI-powered client acquisition engine that enhances your human connection, helping you move beyond the slow growth of referrals. Our AI-powered systems eliminate the grind, allowing you to break through the noise, build high-value relationships, and free up your time to focus on transformative client impact. If you're ready to build a predictable growth engine, learn more at valentix.io. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we're joined by Neil Katz, the founder of Exceptional HR Solutions. Neil's career journey is a testament to strategic HR leadership and entrepreneurial courage, forged over 25 years in corporate America before he pivoted to launch his own fractional HR services firm. Driven by a passion to make a real difference beyond corporate constraints, Neil now leads a 22-person team helping leaders optimize their HR functions. His insights into strategic HR, integration, and leveraging AI to build new service offerings offer a powerful blueprint for leaders navigating today's talent landscape. Neil, welcome to The Growth Shift.
David, thanks so much for having me, and I'm very excited to be here with you and talk to your audience today.
Pleased to have you on the show today, Neil. Your journey started like many entrepreneurs does, right? In the corporate world, tons of experience and a lot of frustration that went hand in hand with that, right? Tell us a little bit more about that corporate journey, some of the key lessons and insights you took away, and really what caused you to set out on your own.
Yeah, David, that's a great question. I spent almost 20 plus years in corporate America, and candidly, the journey was great. You know, one of the things I tell people is our journeys lead us to where we are and the decisions we make. And honestly, I don't think we'd be as successful as I am and this firm is today without the journey of corporate. But here's the thing, corporate America is great, but the challenge is I didn't feel, and maybe others would argue this point with me, I just didn't feel HR was making the true difference we could. The opportunities to make an impact on the people components of the business, to dive into and develop and create strategies that align to the business operations. Many of the companies I worked for were great companies and they had nice HR functions, but we just couldn't make the leverage and the impact that we felt we needed to make. And I worked for company, and we had some incremental change and impact and solutions and outcomes that were positive and supportive, but just not as much as I'd like to see. And I just watched journey after journey of frustration and opportunities and missed opportunities for me. And at one point, I was in a position where I just wasn't happy. I realized that this wasn't everything I could do. And I knew there was more ahead for me. And candidly, I was with a company, just wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I came home one day and I was talking to my wife and I talked to her and I said, look, I have this opportunity to come home, be home every day. And here's the deal. It's 2 days a week. And she goes, it's fractional. I'm like, yeah. So she's like, I support you. And that was the first opportunity. And then I picked up 2 additional clients. And she said to me, she goes, why don't you start this into a company? And I'm like, I don't know. And I tell this story all the time to people. Imagine looking over a cliff and all you see is complete darkness. Now, at the bottom of the cliff, it could be pillows, clouds, jagged rocks, knives. I have no idea what's down there. All I know is I'm standing at the edge of the cliff and I have to make a decision. Do I go forward or do I stop? And candidly, I envision probably so many entrepreneurs hearing this story going, yeah, that was me. We're all at that cliff at one point. The difference was I felt a small nudge in the bottom of my back and a whisper in my ear from my wife saying, just go do it. What's the realistic worst case scenario of what could happen to you?
Mm.
And she was right. And it's now in our fifth year full time of doing this business, and we've been successful. We're going to, and I emphasize successful because what I always say is there's always opportunities to do more. But if
Mhm.
I really reflect candidly, we've had some really good 5 year run, and I can't imagine what the next five is going to bring for us.
Neil, for all entrepreneurs, whether or not they've started businesses in the past or they're just coming from a place of experience, entrepreneurship and new businesses are exactly as you said, the unknown, right? You got to be willing to
Mhm.
step off that cliff and tackle the challenges that will come. But that being said, I think most entrepreneurs are also starting in a position of something that's known, right? That problem that they want to solve, the value that they want to deliver ultimately. And a lot of that is what you saw and learned in your time in corporate. Not to throw shade on or to detract from the overall value of what the companies that you worked for really delivered. But from your experience, right, when you said that the HR function wasn't really delivering the true impact that you wanted it to or that you knew it could, what were perhaps some of those gaps that you identified that you can now solve with exceptional HR solutions?
And I mean that so broadly. Some examples I'll give you is being a true strategic partner,
Mm.
developing career pathing options for people, developing programs that align, having true real metrics to see the impact on the business, to integrate and bring in programs and systems that the companies just didn't want to do. HR in most organizations today, and this is my humble opinion, is a compliance monitor. We monitor for compliance and checklist. Is this done? Is this done? Is this complete? How do we mitigate risk and exposure? And by the way, critical part of HR, but it could be so much more. And one of the things I continue to see is the strain HR puts on our leaders in companies today. And what I say is my team will manage the drama and trauma of HR because we know how to do it. We know how to do it really well. So really the biggest thing I see today that we couldn't do before is eliminating or minimizing the drama and strain and drain and giving leaders 4 to 8 hours per week back in their schedule. That's a lot. So
Mhm.
for me, that's I think the biggest component what was missing was allow HR to be that great people leader, support its leaders, allow them to be where their brilliance is, and allow us to really lead that people component and function.
This is a pretty big realization and a value add that you can ultimately deliver. What do you think led you to that, right? What was your growth shift moment that just showed you this was the way forwards?
I think for me, candidly, I knew something was there. I'll be honest, when I started the business, I'm not going to tell you I absolutely knew this was it. I knew there was something more for me. And as I started watching leaders, really in the first one or two jobs, I was doing the fractional HR. It was me building this out. And I realized very quickly, these leaders are spending a crazy amount of energy and time and strain and drain on them because they don't have an HR person. And I went into these, I'm like, I got this. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me help you with this. Can you take care of this? And then, David, what was interesting is it started shifting. Then it was, hey, can you help us with ABC 1, 2, 3? Sure. What about, can you do this? Yes. What about this? Yes. And what it really came down to is we set them free. And it very quickly came early in the first 2 to 3 companies. And then I started playing with this a little bit more and recognizing there's more here. And next thing I know, I start hiring a person or two, or three, or four, or five, or 20. And I realize we have a company. We have an ability to make a difference. And for me, that big pivot moment was recognizing, knowing there was a niche, but expanding on the niche and recognizing the opportunity for companies to really relieve them that burden of people and help them, not take it all away from them, but help them, teach them, empower them, support them. That's the real aha moment I had. And for me, that was the big pivot. And candidly, that's been the driving force for the last 5 years of this company is that opportunity to make a difference. I can see a difference in every company we are at today. And if I don't, I personally will lean in to try to find the difference myself. Because at times it might be harder to find. I'm like, let me find it for you. and it's there.
So from a high level, the difference that you make is, as you said, you help leaders reduce strain and drain. You save them 4 to 8 hours per week, and you allow them to focus on what they really love. Can you tell us a little bit more, though, and from a hands-on practical perspective, when you come in and you work with your clients to have this sort of impact, what are you actually doing with them?
Absolutely. So we do everything from the beginning of the journey through the entire employee life cycle, but just a couple highlights. Imagine onboarding somebody. We have CEOs and founders and leaders sitting there putting people into a computer system, putting in pay rates, filling out forms, getting their emails set up, ordering equipment. I can automate all that. I can do it electronically and digitally. We have companies doing it on paper or companies trying to write policies. And do you know what they're doing to write a policy today? My favorite thing, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but AI. Look, chat's phenomenal, but it's not going to have it'll have the foundation to help you. But if you're using AI to write everything and do everything from a people perspective, you're at risk. It's a tool. It's not the 100% solution at this time. In the future, we'll talk. But it's things of that nature that, or the other one I'll give you is imagine a leader trying to negotiate and build a benefits offering when I'm not sure they truly understand all the aspects and nuances of the benefits programs. And the reality is, should they? No, those are just a couple highlights of some things. We don't have enough time on the podcast to list all the great things we do
Sure.
as a team, but just to give you some ideas of those components where we find leaders spending all this time in those areas, and it's an opportunity to give them that time back.
Yeah, I mean, these are all independent and critical components of a company on their own, right? These are all unique focuses, or I mean, they all fall within HR. So for a leader or a company owner or founder to need to detract themselves from the vision, from the forward's momentum, from the strategy, right? That can pretty quickly negatively impact a company just from drawing the leader's attention away from where it needs to be. So, I mean, the value you deliver is not just immediately in terms of, helping with some low level tasks and automations to free up time, but it's really unlocking the owner and the leaders to allow the company to grow in the way that it has envisioned it wants to.
David, that's exactly the message is imagine a leader gets 4 free hours a week. What could they do in their strategy, their business, their growth, their client interactions, the new client, that one client they've been struggling to close the deal on that they now get to go meet with them, get to know them, learn more about them. That impact is priceless. And the reality is this, they're spending, let's say, 6 hours doing something. My team probably could do it in two because we're really, really good at it. And what I tell people is at the end of the day, it's about efficiencies. The question I always ask people is, would you call a plumber to fix your broken car? Answer's pretty easy, right? I hope not. So why would you try to be an HR practitioner when you're really a visionary founder who has strategic opportunities to make a financial, strategic impact on their business? Go back to why you started this. And it wasn't the drama and trauma and details of writing an employee handbook. Trust me, I haven't met anybody that built a company to write a handbook. Not yet.
Neil, I mean, this is incredible, right? Just what you're coming in and doing and how you're helping your clients. Do any of your clients perhaps come to mind when you're thinking about one of the ones you may have had the greatest impact on? Could you share a story with us?
I will limit to one story, but yes, there's a multitude of stories. And one of the great stories was we were hired by this company it was like a 30-person company, and they were scaling, growing, and expanding. And what we did was we recognized there was no infrastructure. Heavy amount of the work was falling on the finance and accounting team. And we basically came in and started working with them. It was about 10 to 15 hours per week. And we became HR at XYZ company. And what we did was we allowed those teams to get back to what they were great at. Finance and accounting do theirs, leadership doing theirs, and allow this company to continue to scale and grow. And last numbers I saw, the company was generating roughly around a 3 to 4x growth year over year. Phenomenal growth, but it allowed to set these leaders free. Finance, accounting, marketing, operations, executive suite, all of them were able to get back to what they're great at in their area of success and champion. and become those leaders they needed to be. And we then took on the HR functions, 401k, benefits, onboarding, offboarding, systems, payroll, policies, procedures, investigations, all of it, so they could do what they were great at. And when you can generate a 3 to 4x growth year over year for a company, and this is 3 years running, I would say that a small success. There's more to come, but we'll continue to support clients just like that and more to allow them to really get back to what they're good at.
Yeah, wonderful. So, Neil, what you're doing is directly impacting the growth of your clients and their companies, right? Now,
Absolutely.
of course, these are practices and strategies you are applying to exceptional HR solutions as well. Tell us a little bit more about your own growth strategy. What are your goals over the next year, and how are you actively pursuing growth today?
So, David, it's a great question. And I made a very bold decision 5 years in, and I announced it to my entire team. We will achieve 2x growth this year over last year. We've had a good last year. We really did. And many of the people were like, X, like that's a 200% growth. I'm like, I know. And we're going to achieve it. And what we're doing is we're rebuilding out our sales team. We're looking at and bringing in some AI resources and tools to help us, because the reality is this, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later in our discussion, but look, if you're not using tools today, such as AI, you're behind already. So for me, we're leaning more and more in with those new tools and recognizing how they work, how they function, what's the right way to engage, but still keep the human in this process. Because for me, we're in human resources. And one of the things I used to say years ago, I never want to see the human come out of human resources. So for me, using AI is a phenomenal tool and I love it, but we're always going to keep the human in human resources.
Oh, absolutely. The human needs to stay in business completely, right? As soon as you lose focus on
Right.
the human, you're losing focus what you're really working on. You're delivering a product or a service or a good to people, right? By people, for people, all human focus. As soon as you lose sight of that, I mean, what are you really doing in business
Right.
after all? So, Neil, you're mentioning you want to double your growth, right? You want to 2x your growth over this next year. Growth has been good so far. One of the best ways to, of course, increase growth is through client acquisition. You mentioned, you're adding to your sales team, you're enhancing the processes that you're using and the tools. Today's environment is pretty tricky when it comes to client acquisition, right? There's a lot of market forces actively working against consultants and, executive coaches alike. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges you're up against that you're going to have to solve?
I think finding the nuance is different. And one of the things that I'm a huge fan of is I don't sell. I just don't believe in selling. I think sales is overrated. I think being an exceptional listener is a component of it, but providing resources and tools to people. And one of the things that we're building out now is a content engine. One of the things in human resources I've recognized for years is the amount of information and the things that are changing in states, federal, local levels, people impact. There's just too much content for people to absorb. So my job is we're building a content engine that people can go on our website, sign up for, and we will build them customized content for who they are, their company, their industries, and the states they serve. So when they get content, they're not just getting spammy messages. They're getting content that they're like, oh my gosh, this hits home for me. This is my team. This is the states. This is the information I need to know. I believe in giving, because when you give and you provide a tool or a resource or value, it comes back tenfold.
Marketing, client acquisition, whatever you want to call it today, requires value. And that's where so many people are going wrong, right? They're missing out on that value equation. You
Mhm.
have to be able to give before you get, right? And that has evolved, that has changed. You have to be able to directly have people feel like that interaction is inherently valuable to them. They're walking away from it with something, whether it's content, whether it's recognition, whether it's tools, new information. It has to be meaningful. Otherwise, you're just going to be met with a no response or a unsubscribe, right?
Right. Exactly. And I think that's the key, that why the forces are against us in a certain way. Because look, I get 15 emails a day trying to sell me something. And candidly, 98% of them I delete because it's the same message. I have this to solve you for this. And I'm like, you don't even know me. Like,
Like,
what are you solving for? Have you even talked to me? Like,
like,
do you uncover or discover my greatest challenges and where my pain points are? So for me, I'm a huge fan of Just tell me, what are your pain points? Like, what's bothering you? What's straining you? What's making your job and your days difficult? Biggest question, what keeps you up at night?
Mhm.
You understand that? I guarantee you, you tell me those things, I can solve your problem. Guarantee it, without even knowing who you are, what you do. If you have those, please call me and I can help you today.
Amazing. Neil, you've dropped a couple of nuggets along the way. You've mentioned AI. I'm sure you have referenced it as well with the new content system that you're building out for leads, for
Yep.
prospective clients. Tell us a little bit more about how AI is starting to come into play as that next growth shift.
I think for us, we're using in every way we can. And candidly, David, one of the things that we're struggling from an AI perspective is a lot of people are coming forward saying they're AI experts. And the reality is, when you really dig in, and I've hired a couple, and they were not as expert as they portrayed themselves to be. I think for us, what we're doing to lean in on AI is initially, we've been doing it from an automation standpoint. How can we automate the ability to do some of the tasks or the things that we need to do? But what's fascinating with this is, and I challenge your listeners, including myself, and I do this almost daily, what is something you don't know if AI can do? And I'm going to tell you the answer is yes. And be patient and put some time on your calendar for it, because it can be done. And I will give you the one of my favorite ones I've done, and still playing with a little bit, but I built a chat GPT, AI, Google Scripts agent that goes in my emails, looks at emails I sent last week, looks at who responded. If they did not respond, it then pulls the content of the emails and the email streams, builds a draft email, puts it in my draft so I don't miss any follow up. And David, what's fascinating, do you know how much human time I take to do that? About 3 minutes to actually review the drafts, and that's it. And guess what? I don't miss a follow up. Those just one tiny example of, look at what you're doing, because I guarantee you some amount, if not most of what you're doing today from a tactical execution follow through, can be automated. Just use AI to play with it.
The way you're using it, I love it, right? Just for, yes, saving the time with emails, but I mean, it goes beyond saving time, right? Whether it's directly enhancing client relationships and trust, because you
Mhm.
can keep yourself accountable when at times, leaders get distracted with other things, or even on a sales and a client acquisition side, right? The money is in the follow-up. I'm not sure if you've heard that before, but being able to
Oh, yes.
constantly stay with people and let them know that you're thinking about them, you haven't forgotten about them, you have that level of accountability that they will want if they're going to work with you, right? Such a straightforward use case for AI and using it in email effective, but a very powerful one.
And at the end of the day, it's a tool, like a toolbox. And when you need a toolbox, you got to go in and find the right tool. And but I will tell you this, where AI is different than a toolbox is you can build so many amazing tools. And I challenge your listeners to really go play. It's much easier than you think it is.
Mhm.
Be patient. There's going to be some errors and bugginess to it. I get it. But I'm going to tell you, the ability to impact, the ability to support our clients, the ability to build some of the things I've envisioned, I didn't think would be coming true this quickly. And I can't tell you, 2 years from now, it's going to be amazing what we're building.
I couldn't agree more. The rate that AI is evolving and changing right now, it's not only becoming more intelligent, but also more user friendly. A lot easier for the layperson to use and to be able to use it accurately. Whereas, even a year ago, you had to have such an in-depth understanding of prompts if you were to able to get any sort of specific output that you wanted, while also keeping it relevant and accurate, as necessary as prompts still are and very likely will be for a long time. As you said, it's pretty easy to use at the end of the day. Spend a little bit of time. Dedicate
Mhm.
2 hours per week just to
Right.
learning a little bit about how you can use it more effectively for yourself. And a month from now, you'll be in a different world altogether.
One of the favorite ones I like to play with is, I have it on my phone, is Grok. I love Grok because it's, to me, this is Neil's opinion only, it's an exceptionally good natural language conversation. So I'll be driving in, folks. I'm being safe. I'm not typing or any of this. I have a natural language conversation, and I spend usually 2 hours a week discussing topics, learning, digging in as I'm driving. And it's a conversation just like you and I are having today. This could be Grok. It's not. Trust me, it's David, folks, I promise. But it could be Grok, and Grok and I are going back and forth. And I always pick a different topic to say, hey, I need to learn about this. And then, just like prompts, it might not take me down the path I want. So then I'm like, okay, Grok, that was helpful. What about this? okay, I want to go down this path and go this way and this. I'm going to tell you, so many people I talk to, whether it's chat or Grok, those are the two I hear the most about. They're amazing, amazing tools to educate yourself in a time when most of the time you're stuck in a car, you're driving from point A to point B. Maximize your time. It's phenomenal tools.
Neil, for an HR expert and for someone who rightly believes that humans need to stay in HR and humans are essential to business, when we're looking at that integration of AI with the human element, what are the biggest risks that you see for businesses integrating AI into their HR functions?
Finding new opportunities and new developments for the humans when you don't have them doing the tasks they're doing today. Candidly, businesses will look to save money. It's business, folks. Businesses are in business to make money and reduce their costs. It's that simple. How do we keep the human with AI? How do we automate using AI? We find new opportunities. We train and develop the workforces we have today. We find ways to teach humans how to use AI and add value to the role without eliminating the functions. But I will tell you, humans have a lot of work ahead of them as well. We all are going to have to embrace this. It's not going away, folks. It is here to stay. It is the new frontier. Imagine if I told you we're turning off the internet, what would you do? It won't work. So the reality is AI is no different. It's here to stay. I think we as humans have to find ways to train, develop, teach humans new opportunities to maximize their skills. And candidly, if you're a high school or college student or beyond, start looking for unique opportunities where humans are centered and are critical to those functions. Because at the end of the day, those are the growth departments and the growth industries of the future.
Well, your story covers corporate HR leadership, entrepreneurial courage, and a deep commitment to making a tangible difference. For the listeners who are navigating their own growth shift, what's the single most important piece of advice that you would leave them with about valuing human capital and building a truly impactful business?
Businesses don't operate and exist without humans. There are some, and most of them, but at the end of the day, you must have humans, and we have not eliminated the human function. I don't see it anytime in the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years. So it is here just like AI, and we have to value them both, and we have to recognize how do we get the most out of both of those resources. And if you're not valuing your people, somebody else will. And trust me, there are plenty of opportunities out there today that will value those folks if you're not. So I challenge you to recognize, what have you done for your folks lately? How have you supported them, helped them, heard them, listened to them, and create value for them as well? Because at the end of the day, it's a human capital business.
Neil, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your lessons, and your story with the audience today. For anyone listening who might like to learn more about what it is you're doing, or might even just like to continue the conversation, what would be the best way to find you?
Two places, David. One, LinkedIn, Neil Katz. I'm there. My company page is there. And then on the company website, exceptionalhrsolutions.com. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. But please drop me a note. Let's connect. We'll schedule a call and continue the conversation. And just remember, I am here to help. Always have been, always will.
Neil, thank you again so much for joining us today on The Growth Shift.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Another powerful conversation on The Growth Shift. If you, like our guests, are ready to turn your expertise into a predictable, scalable growth engine, one that eliminates the grind of prospecting and enhances your high-value relationships, then it's time to connect with Valentix. We are not a marketing agency. We are your strategic growth partner, building intelligent systems that ensure your client acquisition is predictable, not dependent on chance. To see how our AI-powered frameworks can free up your time and fill your calendar with decision makers, visit valentix.io. Thank you for joining us on The Growth Shift. We'll see you next time.